everybody. Welcome to the Sally Allen podcast. As you know, we use this platform for people to share their stories of resilience. And boy, do I have a story of resilience and hope for you today. I have Mr. Jon Ponder, and it took a lot to get him here. One, he's very busy, and two, I'm very persistent, so I never just stop chasing him. Jon Ponder is the CEO and founder of Hope for Prisoners, and his story is the epitome of hope. So, Jon, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Sally, for having me. And also, thank you very much for your persistence.
I don't give up when I have a good story to share, so I'm not letting that go. So, Jon, I've been following you in social media, seeing all the wonderful things you've been doing and the lives you have been changing. But I also know that you have a story to share with us because it took a journey to get to where you are today.
Oh, absolutely, it did. And thank you so much for this opportunity. I think that anytime you find yourself in life where you have transformed your life, right, and begin to live life on another level, I think there's something on the inside of this burning desire to turn right back around and help other people through those same things.
Wow, that's very profound. And walk us through your journey and how you got to that statement you just shared.
Okay, well, absolutely. Well, first of all, I grew up in New York, the product of a single parent home. Mom was raising 5 knucklehead boys and 1 knucklehead girl all by herself. And I think that growing up inside that environment, my story is not much different than the other stories in urban communities across our country. Growing up without that fatherhood in the home, right? You kind of lead to the streets to validate masculinity. And when that happened, life just went to a whole nother level and opened up doors that you never really wanted to walk through.
And where did that lead you?
Sure. Well, for me, going out to the streets to validate that masculinity, the streets led me to the drugs led me to gangs led me to criminal activity, and that criminal activity led me to my very first set of handcuffs at the tender age of 12 years old.
I didn't realize that. 12 years old.
Yeah. Been doing this a long time.
12 years old. And continue.
Yeah. So in and out of different juvenile facilities, caught my first felony conviction at 16 years old. Didn't really learn my lesson, and life just spiraled out of control from there. So instead of me, learning my lesson and being able to, live life the right way, it kind of spiraled out of control from there.
Jon, what is the statistic? For I know that it's cliche to say, "Oh my gosh, you are not a statistic." But what is the statistic for your neighborhood and where you grew up and you coming out of that? What's the statistic of people that remained in that lifestyle and environment?
Oh man, I'm just guessing at it right now, but I would guess to say somewhere between 80 and 85% of people kind of get stuck in that rut in the neighborhood. A vast majority of people, not only in our local community, but across the country, they never step outside the parameters of the neighborhood.
So are you saying like stepping outside of the parameters, it's a likelihood of you stepping out of that environment and make something better of your life?
Absolutely. But you do have success stories and folks that do that. And one of the things that we do as we work very closely with the Woodson Center is we study those success stories, because a lot of times people want to focus on the failures, but that story of resilience of those individuals that are inside that in those environments and they make it out of those neighborhoods, right? The difference between 2 teenage boys growing up in the same household, exposed to the same economic conditions, but one person grows up and has a phenomenal life after graduating Penn State, but the same brother in the same household winds up spending the rest of his life in the state pen. How do you do that, right?
Yeah.
And it's a matter of what it is that folks are focusing their attention on. So we just put a strong emphasis on that, the resiliency of the individual. What was it that was inside that home that he was focusing his attention on that drove him into another direction that helped him to live a successful life?
Yes, you just fast forward our storytelling, but I'm going to bring you back to your story and how did you accomplish that?
Right.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Well, for me, and again, I've been in and out of different juvenile systems, different jails, different prison systems, and one day, Sally, I found myself in a holding cell, about to go before a judge, and he had the potential to sentence me to the next 23 years of my life in prison. Right, because of some crimes that I had committed. And when I found myself in that situation, I had taken a look back over my life, over the last 37 years of my life, and realized that I had accomplished absolutely nothing of great significance. And for me, I found myself asking myself this question that I know that I know that I know that life has to be more than what it was I've been living if somehow something was different. And for me, I stood in that prison cell. I asked God to forgive me for all the sins that I've committed, and unmistakably, He did. And I asked Him to step in and turn my life around. And in that moment, He turned me in a 180-degree turn in the complete opposite direction.
God is amazing. And when we give our life fully to Him, authentically, we intentional, it's amazing the changes He'll make. But I always like to ask people and go back before all of that. What triggered you to actually want to make that change?
Right. And again, I think that unshakable sense that life could be different. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was strung out on drugs, and again, found myself in that space where just absolutely miserable. And I had always known about God because I've been exposed to God forever.
Yeah.
But in that prison cell, I had an opportunity once I surrendered my life to Jesus. I took some time to really get to know who He is. And for me, when I began to understand the magnitude of who God is and understand the magnitude of what it was He's done for me, and then when I started digging into the pages of my Bible, understanding the promises that He has laid out for me, that's when I, with every ounce of energy that I could muster, I wanted to make sure that I laid hold of those promises.
Man, what's your life scripture? I know we all have one. Mine is Joshua 1:9. What's yours?
Okay, it is Romans 8:28 and 29, which says that all things work together for the good, for those who love God and are called according to His purposes. And for me, looking back over the course of my life and all those atrocious things that I had been through, and I'm in my prison cell and I'm reading that scripture and I'm asking God, well, how could this right here ever work together for the good? Because I've been through some atrocious things. And when I realized that is when I allow God to pull me through whatever that is, right? And I'm on the other side of it. How it works together for the good is when I turn right back around and help some other people through those same things that I was in bondage to.
Oh man, paying it forward. I love what you said a couple of seconds ago. There's a difference between knowing of God and knowing God.
Yeah. Sally, it is all about the relationship with Jesus, right? That's what it was that we've been created for. We weren't just created to know Him. We could know Him for our entire life. But when you really get to know who God is, right, and what He has done, that's when your life just gets turned around and completely transformed. So,
man, can I tell you, like, I'm so blessed you're here, and just to have you in this closed setting, hearing your story one-on-one, this is really, really blessing my heart right now.
well, praise God. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, so we get to the part, God works all things together for good. Share that part now. Okay, you found God in prison. What happened next?
Right. So when I found God in prison, it was prior to me getting sentenced, right? And I was going to go get sentenced, and I played Let's Make a Deal with God, right? And I was in that holding cell, and I asked God to, do me a favor, go before me in this courtroom, right? And I'm asking you to do is to move that federal judge right out of the way, right?
Yeah.
And then I asked God to search the meditation of my heart, right? And I said that whatever time that I got coming to me, I asked God, you be my judge, and let it come from you. And whether it's 10 years or 50 years, search the meditation of my heart, I'm going to spend the rest of my life serving Him. So unmistakably, I walked into that courtroom and God showed up, right? I didn't get what it was that I deserve, reflective of God heard my prayer, and he climbed into the robe of the judge because he sent his son that we might not get what it was that we deserve.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So, what was your sentence
Yeah.
at that hearing?
Yeah, so I got 6 years instead of what it was that I could have gotten. But I have to tell you, one of the passions that I have in life is going back into the prison system, right? Because for those 6 years, I spent every waking moment of my time, number one, trying to cultivate my relationship with this Jesus I just surrendered my life to. And I tell people that in my heart and in my spirit, I didn't go to prison. I went to Bible college, right? And again, the more and more I began to understand about who God is, that's when I began to understand more about me and who it was that God created me to be. And that's when I came to the realization that I'm not the name that the streets gave me. I'm not the name that those girls thought I was. I'm not even the guy whose name is listed on this pre-sentence investigation. I am who my God says that I am, and I can do everything that my God says that I can do.
Man, you knew your identity was in Christ.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
100%.
Found your identity. That is powerful.
Right.
And from what I heard and read, that you started your ministry in jail.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So in that, and again, wanting to spend every waking moment of my time to address the issues surrounding the circumstances that led to my incarceration, right? So it was learning and growing, a lot of reading and studying and praying, and that's when I tell people that God impregnated me with this vision of hope for prisoners, right? And again, for the purpose of turning right back around and helping some other people
Right.
through those same things. So I spent the rest of my time studying and growing and learning and getting more and more impregnated with this vision that God had given me. And I came home in 2009 and gave birth to this baby that God had given me.
So you took that vision and created a strategy, and you had it before you left prison. So you were ready to rock and roll by the time you got out.
Oh, absolutely. And hit the ground running in 2009. Digging trenches in the community, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It was very challenging. There was people in the world around me telling me no, that it can't be done and it's not going to happen. But I always held on to that yes that God gave me inside that prison cell.
Man, what a story of faith and resilience. Who was your person? I know when you're starting something new, even something like my podcast, there's a lot of people look at you and say, oh, that's nice. That's cute.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
But there's always that person. You're one person that's there. Who was that person for you?
Well, there were several people that were there for me.
Yeah.
I have a Pastor Pasquale Urabazo, who's kind of like my go-to person in the early years that just breathed life and encouragement. It was like wind beneath my wings that just encouraged me that, this can be done. It didn't matter what it was that I brought to him. And it was I look back on it right now, it must have seemed like it was just absolutely crazy bananas. But he was that guy early on that just kind of breathed life into the vision. And since then, there was many more. I'm a firm believer, and this is what I tell our formerly incarcerated people that are coming home, that if you are looking to live a brand new life, you have to surround yourself with people that are getting the results that you want to get out of life. That's why the mentoring piece is such a huge component of what it is that we do. Because if you ask anyone who has ever achieved any significant level of success in life, how did you do it? How did you get to where you are in life? If that person's completely honest with you, they're going to admit that they did not get there by themselves.
That's right.
They had people that were in their life that was guiding, directing, coaching, push, pulling, dragging, and sometimes even kicking in the rear end every single step of the way. So I'm very grateful for the men who have, come alongside me.
Yes, yes. So today, Hope for Prisoners is the wind beneath the wings for many, many people coming out of incarceration. Tell us a little bit about that what you're doing and how you're helping people.
Right. So, and thank you for that. So, we work with men, women, and young adults that are exiting different arenas of our judicial system. And what we do in a nutshell is to provide the supportive services to help them not only get acclimated back into workplaces, because that's very, very important, but we make sure there's mechanisms in place through partnerships that we built up with employers that once they get inside the workplace, they're going to be afforded every opportunity to thrive and be able to grow and afforded every opportunity to succeed. We also address the needs for them to get acclimated back into their family, Sally, which has been a missed mark and reentry since forever. It's like no one's ever paid the particular close attention that's needed for the men and women to come back home to their family, understanding that they have to get reconnected with wives and husbands and particularly get reconnected with their children. So we work as best we possibly can to ensure there's a mechanism in place to help with the family reunification piece, because if that piece is not right, if the home life is not right, then everything else in the world has a tendency to fall apart. And then on the back end of the process, because there's a long-term 18-month or more journey that we walk with them, doing everything we possibly can with every resource that we have available to us to ensure that we're helping formerly incarcerated people to be stand-up leaders in our community with an overall goal of them never, ever, ever reoffending again.
Wow. You know, John, one of my first ministries was the jail ministry. And it's one of the toughest ministry, and people call it the bottom of the barrel ministry because there's certain stigma that goes with people who are incarcerated.
Sure.
What would you say to our listeners regarding that stigmatism? Because there's so much more than just looking at someone as an offender and a repeat offender. There's so much more behind that person's story.
Oh, absolutely. It is. And, you know, one of the things that I found, and I speak from my own personal experience, that the vast majority of people from this segment of the population, they really do want to change. Sally, they have no idea how to do it.
Yeah.
You know that old saying, when you don't know what you don't know, you're
Yeah.
in trouble. So it's funny when you talk about prison ministry, and I never miss the opportunity. Whenever I get in front of some chaplains, right, I always share with them the important work that they were doing, right? Because it was the chaplains that was going inside the jails and the prisons that were pouring into me and discipling me, right? Even when they didn't think that I was getting it, right? They were sowing seeds that it took almost 30 years later for that seed to come to harvest. So I always try to encourage, especially people who are going in jail ministry, right? You're going in there, but you don't see the fruit of your labor.
Right.
But you just have to keep doing what you're doing, staying encouraged, right? And keep sowing those seeds, right? And then one day God will bring forth the harvest.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what, because for me, it was a revolving door. I did it for 4 years, and it was a revolving door, and it could get, discouraging. But you're right, sowing that seed, because sometimes we're just called to sow the seed. Somebody's going to go and water that seed.
Yes.
Yeah, we play our part, and we have to realize we just play a small part.
And I think that if we can all get that right in this walk with the Lord, as long as we are doing our part, doing what it is that God has commissioned us to do, we don't need to see the back end of it, right?
That's right.
Someone else is going to come along to water it, to fertilize it, and ultimately God is the one that's going to give the increase.
Yes. One of my pastors had to have a hard talk with me where he said, and it really hit me, "You're playing God, Sally, because you want to go in there and save everybody." I was like, you're right. I'm discouraged because people are not, are not doing what I want them to do. And he's like, you're just going in there to bring a message to them.
Right.
And that's all you're called to do right now. You're not calling to go in there and save everybody.
And then all those messages that you share with them, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, because it happened to me.
Yeah.
Right? I start reading those messages, right? And, those scriptures that people are sharing with me. And then in my alone time, many years later, God began to connect the dots on all those scriptures, right? And that brought forth the harvest.
Yes.
So don't think that the work that you're doing is in vain. And if any of your listeners or chaplains are going in jail, please do not get discouraged, right? You're going in there doing what it is that God has called you to do, and God's got you covered.
Yeah. Thank you for that. If you're listening to this, that's very powerful. So tell us, you've been doing this for how many years now?
Yeah, so we've been doing this for 12 years, just a little over a decade.
12 years.
Yeah.
And how many people have gone through your doors? And share one of those success stories with us.
We've had the privilege of working with over 4,800 men and women have been through our process, right?
Wow.
There are so many success stories that we can come up with, right?
Yeah.
Some of the men and women that we have worked with, some of them have never worked a legitimate job a day before in their life, come out of atrocious background, gang affiliation, really bad charges. And when we come alongside them and be able to pour into them, give them the much needed resources, that's where, it escalates up to success. Give you an example. There's one of our alumni graduates who graduated back in 2011, a guy by the name of Mario Taylor.
Yeah.
Mario Taylor went to prison at 16 years old. He did 17 and a half years, so spent most of his young adult life while incarcerated, right? And so he came to Hope for Prisons. We started working with him. He was hungry for success, right? So that only fueled our ability to just come alongside him. And man, when I tell you today, he's a never reoffended again, licensed electrician. He's married, and he and his wife just bought a home in I don't want to put it out there where he lives at, but it's in a very, very nice side of town. Very happy and very proud of the accomplishments of Mario Taylor.
Thank you so much. I'll need his business card. I actually need an electrician.
Okay. You hear that, Mario?
So Mario's story is unique in the sense that he came in with high potential and he was hungry to change. But what about those people that come in with limiting beliefs?
Right.
And, there's a lot of that because of their background and their environment. How do you change those limiting beliefs?
Right. I think that the minute that, and to put it in a nutshell, it's the word hope, right? When you can instill in someone, again, people don't want to live in those miserable lives, want to change, don't know how to do it. So when we're able to build up the relationship with them, then build up trust and instill the hope in them that there's a future ahead of them that could look so much different than their past if they trust the process. And the minute that you get folks to trust the process and they begin to see the fruit begin to bear in their life, that's when they take this thing and run with it and never look back.
So what I'm hearing you say is you cast a vision to them first.
Oh, absolutely.
And then they see duplication of the process that's been done over and over again.
Absolutely. Sally, we have this session of our training, which is called the Vivid Vision. And in that Vivid Vision, we challenge our clients to take a look at their life 1 year from today. We have it put it down on a piece of paper. They write it out. What are they doing, right? 1 year from today. And at the end of it, it's 5 or 6 paragraphs. At the end of it, we make a copy of it. We give them a copy so they can hold on to it and keep it right in front of their face. But then the other copy of it, I give that to my staff, my case managers, my mentors, my job developers, my substance abuse counselor. And then what our job is to do everything we can to help them to live out that dream.
Yeah.
See, Hope for Prisons is bigger than just getting a job. As a matter of fact, my organization, we're sitting on jobs right now that we can fill. But the mission of the organization is to help people live a brand new life, right? And so, for them to be able to walk out in that vision, man, is probably one of the most rewarding things that you can't even put a price tag on it.
Right.
You have somebody come in at the absolute worst place in life, and then I tell people I got the best seat in the house as the CEO of this organization because I have the privilege of watching the evolution of life.
Yeah, totally. And I'm assuming that you would have some of them and actually work for Hope for Prisoners. You probably have a bunch of people working.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're graduates.
They're
have
graduates.
been out.
Yeah.
And again, that's that Romans 8:28 and 29.
Yes.
Right? Turn right back around and help other people through the same thing that they have gone through. And that way, I call them subject matter experts.
Yes.
Right? They're the subject matter experts. And when you have those types of subject matter experts, right, who can turn around and help, this way you get to minister to them, not from a sympathetic point of view.
That's right.
I can climb in your shoes and know what you need.
That's right.
Because I felt exactly what it is that you're feeling right now. So when we have our graduates come home and they've proven that they have made the decision to live their life by a higher standard, absolutely, we bring them on staff and they become the subject matter experts and then be able to connect with people on levels that many people can't.
Yeah, yeah, empowering them and then giving them this purpose-driven life to live.
Absolutely.
And for other people to see that testimony, they like, yes,
Right.
people love when you can relate to what they've been through.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
you remind me of talking about relating, and I just, it's in me. I might just start preaching this thing, right?
Yeah.
But there's a passage of scripture in the Bible that just exemplifies that, right? And it talks about the greatest teacher that ever walked the face of the planet Earth was this guy named Jesus. And Jesus
Yes.
taught his disciples in parables.
Yes.
And one of the parables that Jesus taught his disciples was he said that if you have faith of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain to be cast in the sea and it'll be done, and says nothing will be impossible to you. So listen, the reason why Jesus used the mustard seed was because Jesus was trying to illustrate the minuteness level of faith that it would take to
Yeah.
move this mountain. But the question is, if this great teacher, greatest teacher ever walked the face of planet Earth, if he wanted to illustrate the minuteness level of faith, why did he use the mustard seed when the mustard seed is not the smallest seed in the world?
I just heard that this week.
Right? The smallest seed in the world is the orchard seed,
seed,
right?
yeah.
But why didn't this great teacher use the orchard seed? And the reason why this great teacher used the mustard seed was because the mustard seed was the smallest seed in that region of the world where the people were. This great teacher took something that they can understand
Yes.
to help explain something that they couldn't.
That's where
That's-
relate come in.
Absolutely, they can relate. There's a connectivity in that communication that captures folks' attention. And that's why we want to make sure that we're utilizing those subject matter experts.
Wow. And you know, there is so much dignity in subject matter experts. The way you say it, I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
I feel great if somebody called me a subject matter expert. I don't think I'm a subject matter expert to anything,
Right.
but it's such an honor to refer to someone as a subject matter expert. So I can imagine, you know, them being in that role and doing that and be referred to a subject matter expert. What empowerment, Jon! You're doing such great work.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Yeah,
so very,
yeah.
very much.
Yeah. So what's what's a takeaway for our audience today?
Yeah. So the one thing I'd like to share with your audience is that, you know, everybody's deserving of a second chance. Sometimes some of us needed third, fourth, fifth chances. You know, there are people who are incarcerated and they have paid their debt to society, right? And when they come home, right, we need to live in a community that's going to embrace them and love on them and create opportunities that they do not go back. So, you know, with employers, open up employment opportunities. And we tell our employers that we train and equip them so that when they get inside those workplaces, they're going to go above and beyond the call of duty inside the workplace. One of the things that I'll be remiss if I don't make mention of, we have an unprecedented partnership with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department,
Yeah.
where the sheriff has given us an army of volunteer police officers that are serving as mentors, right? Just
Wow.
evidence that we serve a big, gigantic God,
God,
because
that's right.
never before in the history of reentry, nowhere on this planet to this magnitude has law enforcement gotten this involved in mentoring and training people coming home from the prison system.
Yeah. You know, that's normally my closing, but I do have two more things that just occurred to me. One, how can people come alongside you? And two, your program is one of a kind. There's no other like this in the country.
That is correct.
Can you talk about that? I want to talk about that before we close. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So what we built up here, praise God, in the state of Nevada, and again, it's nowhere like this in the community. When people ask me all the time, because I fly over the country talking about what it is that we're doing, and other cities, other jurisdictions are looking for us to replicate this model in their jurisdiction. And I always tell them the key to the success is two words: unprecedented partnerships that we built up in the community, right? Coming together like never before with one goal in mind, is to help formerly incarcerated people get out in the community. And listen, not only do they never reoffend, but what can we do to help them to live levels of life that most people only dream of? And I think that as a community, if we get that, we're taking people who were former wards of the state, right? Burdens to the state, but we pour the resources into them, and now they become contributing taxpayers in our community, contributing to the economic, they're fueled in the economic engine of our community.
Yeah. So you're saying, one, the partnership, but two, you have a holistic approach.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, holistic approach to where you're even integrating them back into society and giving them jobs.
Right.
Yeah, that is amazing. But two, how can people come alongside you, and what can they do to contribute or help if they want to?
Right. There is always opportunities as we're growing. As a nonprofit organization, we stay in fundraising mode. People can certainly go to hopeforprisoners.org and click on that donate button, become a monthly supporter. And, we don't ask for a lot of money. It's people that, our sweet spot is $25 a month, but that goes a long way when we're providing those service for people. Or we are always looking for mentors, right? People who have been through some things in life. And I always tell people always say, well, I've never been to prison. How could I become a mentor? You don't need to have been to prison, right? Wherever you are in your life, God has brought you through something.
Yes.
That you can turn right back around and help somebody else. And what a rewarding feeling when you can, help people, right? Help them to get to another place in life. So always looking for mentors, always looking for donations. There's opportunities. We have a Christmas event that's coming up.
50 Christmases?
It's going to be 100.
100, yes.
Where we're going to do for the children of incarcerated parents.
Yes.
Right? So we can bless the socks off of them, and we get the inmates together with their family, create a Christmas morning experience, complete with the couch and the coffee table and the Christmas trees and all the gifts, and bring their children in, and so they can really celebrate that moment and create that Christmas morning experience that they would not normally have because mom and or dad are incarcerated.
Yes, I volunteered a couple of times for that, and I cried every time because just to see, and for some of them, it's the first time their experience is a Christmas, just gathering and celebrating Christmas and having gifts for their families.
Absolutely.
So that is so special what you're doing. But what about you? This is heavy, so let's bring it down a little bit. What do you do for fun?
Oh, what I do for fun? What I do for fun is I love to read.
Yeah.
I love spending time with my family. I have two little girls at home that just got dad wrapped around his finger. So when I'm not pouring into other people, I make it a point to pour into my family.
Yes.
Because that's my first ministry.
That's right.
Absolutely. So pour into them. The other thing that I do for fun, because I'm pouring out all the time, I make sure I take a time out and have other people pouring into me. I have my Pastor Jabin Chavez from City Light Church continuously pouring into me. I have members of my board and just people pouring into me all the time. So I make it a point, and that's fun to me, right? That's fun. They pour into me so I can pour out to other people.
Yeah. No, it's great to hear a little bit about your personal life and what you do to refill your cup, because if your cup is not full, you don't have anything to give to people.
That will preach on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, I did the takeaway, and then, oh my gosh, I didn't want to stop. I'm like, I got to keep going with you.
Yes.
But Jon, this was really, it was, I've heard your story before, but not in such an intimate way.
Right.
So thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for being in the show. It's an honor for me. And the one word, you probably see me scribble stuff, but the one word, a takeaway for the audience today is that don't judge people.
Right.
We don't know what they've been through, and we haven't walked in their shoes. Just because they've been incarcerated doesn't mean that there's no bad people out there. It's just the circumstances that lead them to where they are.
Absolutely.
And we all have to deal with what we have and what we know.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I always say just love on people, don't judge them, and you know what? The world will be a so much better place. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So thank you again for being on the show. To our listeners, we thank you for your support. If you're listening, rate, review, and share with your friends. Thanks to Sticky Paw Studio. We love you guys. Man, you're a professional podcaster.